And I think that needs very careful thought and curation. It's not something I think there's talk of legislating on this and governments and so on. Wow, how do you legislate for it? What do you do? And it's always going to run ahead faster than any legislator can keep up with.
Yeah, and it'll probably change.
That's it.
That is as well. As a matter of fact, you probably the goal is to make it so that they're completely neutral, or is it?
Yeah.
No, surely not.
Well, I think you can argue both ways. For example, your argument about humanity and communication, the meaning comes from people, not from words. That's a big thing when you learn communications theory. And non-verbal cues can often be responsible for the bulk of that meaning.
Yeah.
Someone could be saying something, even formally, on the news or in a press conference, and you can tell from the body language that that's not the case. We do a lot of market research, so in focus groups, you'll take a lot of cues from body language, but also tone. The tone of voice is critically important to analyse, to get behind what's being said, because you'll be looking at someone and you'll often realise as they're saying something, they're thinking something different, and you can see them ticking over, well, if I say this, it's going to make no sense whatsoever, so I can't rationalise it, I'm just going to say it in a way that does make sense, but actually what I'm thinking and perhaps even behind that is what I'm feeling is something completely different. So that masking effect and how people communicate and the meaning that moves, I think is...
So do we think that AI could do that to the same extent?
Maybe one day.
Yeah.
I mean, how many inputs is it monitoring?
Well, it's got to have outputs as well.
Yeah. It's got to monitor very subtle shifts of glance and so on. You've been in meetings, I'm sure, where someone with a great idea is shut down by someone senior glancing their way with a unfriendly glance. It's like, stop that. That's going to be too much work or budget or whatever it is. So, and how does it do that? I mean, I think there's a conclusion of this past which says AI will change humanity. It will change it.
Right.
There's an idea to debate.
Yeah. So whether it's good or bad, doesn't matter. We're not making a judgment call about how it's changing, but...
Both ways.
Yeah. It's just different. It'll just be different.
It'll be different. Yeah. And I think it already is. I'm not sure if everyone realises how much, but when you look at all the tech waves of the last, since I started in tech, early 90s, you look at social media, how that's changed.
Yeah.
And the anxiety, it is and has changed, I think there's evidence of it.
Yeah.
But how is the next question.
Yeah.
And furthermore, how do you build an antidote, in our kids to that are realising and aware of that change and can respond accordingly and at least know, that's what's happening and it's sweeping me along, but I know about it so I can deal with it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, or maybe it's like the case of, like when you're a certain age, you're like, you consume social media and then you come to a point, didn't the Silicon Valley parents say, I'm taking all of the social media away from my kids?
Yeah.
But you can do that yourself, right? You don't have to be micromanaged by your parents necessarily, but you come to a point and you say, I don't want, that's right. Yeah. This is not, as my eldest son says, it's turning your brain to mush, right? Every bit of it is turning every time you're on that, it's turning your brain to mush. So turn it off, right? Unless you want your brain to turn to mush. Right, you're not taking anything in. There's no learning or no experience, and there's no absorbing of information there as well. So,
and I think it's really important to recognise the mechanisms that work to create that engagement.
Yeah.
And they do call it engagement, and they do measure engagement too, as to how you move through socials and what you press and what you see and so on. Because you're going down a rabbit hole. It's personalising and optimising this closed loop.
Yeah.
To get more and more of your engagement and then arguably selling that for dollars for advertising or whatever purpose it is. There's a saying, if it's free to use, then you are the product. You're being sold, your attention is being sold to an advertiser, for example.
Yeah.
So how does that come about? And the answer is that the whole industry is very aware of the neuroscience. I had a chance to interview a neuroscientist, and she pointed out that we have this reptilian brain, and the path to the reptilian brain is through tension and urgency. So those two dimensions will take you to reacting and responding
Yep.
without thinking. There's no cognition in that. I put my hand out, the flame's hot, I pull it back. I don't have to think about, well, should I pull my hand out of that flame? It just happens.
Yeah.
Right. So the same can happen with media communications, all this, infotainment type material, the content that's served up by socials. So they know that, and so you look at a good headline in the media as well, and it will have elements of tension and urgency that will force you to read it, will pull you in to read it.
Right.
So how do you combat that? Even the idea of when you scroll down, there'll be a very slight pause between the next post coming up.
Yeah.
That pause is measured with great accuracy. They've done a huge amount of modelling around, statistical modelling, to figure out how do we get the most engagement, because that's creating some tension. It's like, well, what's next? Well, what could that be? The brain is...
And the next thing is going to be better.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I enjoyed that, but I know, or somewhere that there's going to be better. That's what keeps you scrolling.
That's right. Better or worse. Oh, what's the bad thing that's happened to this person? The Schadenfreude idea. Oh, I want to see this. This could be entertaining.
Yeah.
So I think that's a factor that's critical to understand, because then you can start to see it and reverse engineer it and go, okay, I'm not going to get trapped by that. I need to maintain my independence, my mental independence, my outlook, my sanity even.
Yeah, I think that's what social media really stops people from doing, is that deep engagement or stopping and thinking, okay, I want to contemplate this. And I think, maybe I'm being too light on him because I know what's happening, but the other ones I was like so frustrated about the fact that just slow down and stop and think and engage with the problem, right? And I'm sure it's that, I give you a math example, but I'm sure there's other examples like in all part of it, like reading or doing literature or writing or poetry. Like, you've got to stop and think about it. And I think that's where maybe AI is not helping us get out of that system one thinking, and we need to move into system two thinking.
I think you're onto something quite powerful there. I think it's not just AI. I think all of the socials are not helping us get out of that system one thinking. They're in fact attracting us moth to a flame back to system one thinking. Where otherwise, without it, our curiosity, our natural kind of exploration might take us to system two. Why is that so? Why is the sun shining so bright today? Why is the tide so high? Or what's happening in our lives, right? This reflective idea of philosophical meaning to humanity. What is it about my life I love, or I want to change, or whatever? Where am I headed? So there's a lot of meaning that is arguably, obfuscated or hidden, pushed to the side, if you like. I don't know, that's a hypothesis to try and explain.
Well, what I'm reading, what I heard there was about that sense of curiosity.
Yes.
Right? So that system two thinking, I don't know, do you go to the system two thinking when you're curious about it? Or do you avoid the system two thinking because you don't? I mean, system one thinking is just lazy.
Yeah.
Right? And we're all inherently lazy.
Yeah.
So that's what Daniel Kellerman said. So going to the system two is I've got to think deeply about this, or I've got to consider this. I've got to really think about what these two numbers mean and how they go together, right? And somehow find a way to navigate through that space. So, but I think surely that system two, Daniel Kellerman doesn't talk about this, but I'm sure that is related to curiosity as well. Are you curious enough to delve into it and think about it more?
It. And I think curiosity is very close to analytical outlook. It's like, why? Why is it so? Show me something that I can read to understand it further, or show me the data behind that, or research, or whatever it is. I'm seeking understanding to explain why. And I think philosophy is quite closely related, by the way.
Because you need to engage in it. You need to engage in the problem.
Yeah, and I think also as humans, we're looking for direction. That's a big thing, isn't it? Where are we headed? Where and why? What is it all about?
Do you think AI is going to help us do that?
No, I think it'll do the opposite.
Yeah, I think it'll brush the question to the side.
That's it.
We don't need to think about it.
Or potentially bring back a whole lot of irrelevant information that's entertaining, but not prescriptive, or not developmental, or not progressive in helping.
Right. AI is just reliving the past.
Well, it can only, can't it?
It can only.
Because everything it's trained on is the past, including what you've just said. or just told it that it's using to improve its training. Yeah. So it's responding to everything it's given and learning a tiny bit more from it. And therefore, that is by definition the past.
Yeah, it is the past. Always the past.
Yeah.
Yeah. But don't we want to think about where we want to be? It's like we're taking us back to what has just been history.
Yeah. And there was something you said a while ago, I think it was about history and values, history replacing values. Was it
Well, with religion becoming less and less a thing in people's lives, I was listening to something the other day and it said that, well, people need to get their values from somewhere, and it used to be religion, and it still is religion, and a lot of Western philosophy is still based on religion from a values point of view. But as religion kind of disappears or becomes less relevant in people's lives, or maybe they think it's becoming less relevant, I think, people look to history to define values.
And that makes sense.
So maybe AI could give us the history of the value system.
Well, there's some interesting consumer behaviour that builds on that concept, because the consumer behaviour theory puts values at the centre of a kind of onion ring, if you like, and surrounding those values, and the values are fairly sticky, let's say, that they're set in your, by the time you're 10 or 12, a lot of the values have been absorbed. They're from the family, from the community you're in, so on. Then outside that, the next ring is attitudes. So attitudes surround values, and they're beliefs. They're what you think about certain aspects of life or people or activity or whatever it is. And then around that final ring is behaviours. So we see behaviours. It's kind of outside in. You see a behaviour, and a lot of, even in marketing, one of the goals is to change behaviour. Let's bring it more towards repurchase or buying some new product or whatever it is. So to advance that objective, we often will look at a market and we'll segment it into attitudes, and we'll build clusters of attitudes and then go looking for patterns and demographics and so on. And that can be highly effective. One organisation I worked for, when we deployed that across all of our marketing budget, we found there was a small portion of people that were responsible for the vast bulk of purchasing dollars. And so we shifted all marketing effort to focus on that small portion who had very discrete profiles, who read certain media and consumed certain media, very easy to target, who spoke in certain ways that were a little bit different from the norm.
So let me understand that. You're taking behaviours, and from that you're trying to determine what their value-based system is?
Well, you're probably stopping short of values in this scenario. You're stopping at attitudes. And you're saying, from those attitudes, can we align with them, agree with them, appease them, attract them, generate some curiosity, whatever it is through our marketing and communication, in order to shift the behaviour on the outer ring and make it purchase related.
I see, because this is malleable.
Yeah.
But this is not malleable.
Values are not easy to change. Attitudes over time, yes, you could start to shift them.
And some people more than others.
Yes, and constantly communications across the news and advertising and so on. We're measuring different attitudes in society, and how your communications is moving those, adjusting them, and specifically what things that you need to do to make that adjustment change a behaviour. Yeah. Okay, that's really important.
Yeah, because that's what you want to. That's what you want to manipulate. Yeah. That's what you want to people to do something differently from what they're doing now, or maybe not that, but just understand what it would take them to do this thing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's influence engineering. Yeah. But to finish that example, in that organisation, we went from something like 12, 15 points market share to 60-point market share in 18 months, with taking that whole focus on this most fertile attitudinal segment.
Right.
So it works.
And was that iterative or cyclical, or how did you... you must have been analysing the data.
Oh, definitely. As we went, each time we'd loop around and say, have we shifted attitudes? Is that increasing sales? How are we doing this? Yeah. So you have to have that tracking.
And you see what's successful and what's not successful.
That's it. And in those days, it's going back a few years, but a lot of that was manually done with manual analysis. Yeah. But the point to circle back here is that the AI can do it on the fly. Socials are doing that on the fly. So they're looking at that outcome measure of attention, of engagement. Yeah. And they're saying, when we adjust this, we're seeing better results there.
Yeah. What does better results mean?
Well, better results, exactly. What's the metric? What's the outcome we're seeking?
Yeah. For them to stop scrolling or for them to scroll more? More.
I think it's more.
Because you want to see more content.
Exactly. And the more content, particularly focused on some area of aspiration, potentially. And remember, a lot of marketing and sales is around aspiration.
Yeah. Like I could become this or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
By purchasing this product.
Yeah.
By buying this service. By doing this. By paying some money.
Yeah.
But
that means that you as a person want that thing, don't you think?
Yeah.
Or want to be different from who you are, maybe even.
Well, it's hugely subversive in some ways.
Yeah.
Because you don't necessarily know what's going on, and that's important.
Right.
So, what is its purpose? Is it for good? Are we, helping you to support some charity that's doing immense good, and is it a very worthy cause and worthy in whose eyes? It's a judgment call there.
Yeah.
Or is it some flippant product that's just going to make you, less happy about yourself because it's, I don't know, related to some transient state of, attention that you're going to get from some other partner or something. Remember that this comes back to cave theory, which is to be invited into the cave and to fit with the group and accepted by the group means you eat tonight.
Yeah.
Now, if you're not fitting into that group, if you're not agreeable with that group, if you're not belonging and have an identity in some tribe, then you're out of the cave.
Yeah.
You're hunting yourself. You're going to sleep in the rain and you'll be cold and hungry.
Yeah.
So there's this natural kind of human evolution thing that we look back to, which still drives our programming.
Which makes sense.
It does.
It's not like we don't still need that.
Arguably it explains why, and maybe this is evolutionary, but as I understand it, when women groom, and the whole beauty industry is built around the fact when women groom, it releases endorphins if they feel good about it, right?
Oh, right.
For us blokes, it's not. I don't necessarily feel good about grooming. It's nice, but it doesn't make me release endorphins. So that's quite an interesting sort of underpinning or mechanism, if you like, to explain.
Do you think we're going to evolution ourselves out of that, or because it seems to be that? But
well, how quick can it change? That's a very good question.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Can it change? Can we?
Or do we need it for survival?
Yeah,
we probably do. We both go to work every day.
Yeah.
Right. Mind you, I enjoy going to work every day, but we both go to work every day to fit into society, don't we? Or would you rather be sitting on the beach drinking martinis?
Well, that's it. That comes back to purpose. Why are we here? What are we here to achieve? It's hugely philosophical discussion. And a lot of that traditionally has been linked to religion, right? And being good to other people and helping and so on. But does that actualize us anymore? So it's almost a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
Can we evolve? Does it actualize us? To do what?
Yeah, to do what?
Or what will? I'll give you an example. It's really interesting. When Apple released their phone, one of the first iPhones, I'll never forget it. A friend of mine had just a year before had his daughter, and he brought her over, and she was sitting on the table playing with his iPhone. She was 1 year old, and she could scroll through all of the photos and flick through them and zoom into them at 1 year old.
Right.
Is that evolution?
Yeah.
Here you go. There's a question. And that would have been 14 years ago.
So Apple must have done research on making sure that was a thing that humans would do.
In 1 year olds. In 1 year olds.
Correct.
A focus group of 1 year olds. How's that?
They must have.
That's incredible.
Yeah. They must have known they know that they can do that.
Yet Steve Jobs' outlook was, don't research it. They don't know what they don't know. People only know what they want when you show them what you've done. Which in some ways is true.
Yeah.
If you're researching thin air, it's quite hard to ask. If you've got some stimulus you put in front of someone, you can make some calls on it.
Yeah.
But it goes to show the power of the interface, the human interface that Apple had developed. It's good.
Yeah. Well, it must tap into human nature to some extent. Yeah. So I think the question here is, with religion being removed and no values-based system going on, what does that mean? How do we develop our values now? And what is that? And is it driven by social media, or is it driven by your parents?
Yeah.
And where does that go? Where does that come from, and how does that translate into our evolution?
Yeah,
I guess as well.
Yeah, I think that's a huge question, and a really good one for episode 2. Thanks for joining us today. See you soon.
Thank you. See you next time.